best grooming colors for you. Dress on natural and handcrafted too. We wanna help be a swagger, style, class, and luxury. Makeup products that are made for you with high quality. So get in style with the black, yeah. Company, you swagger, style, class, and luxury, in luxury, yeah. The black, gentleman, black, yeah. Company, you swagger, style, class, and luxury, in luxury, yeah.
Located at www.theblackgent.com.
Yo. What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to Kung Fu Film Focus for this Thursday, January 9th, 2025. This evening, we are going to feature a film that is out of what has been tabbed the Bruce exploitation era. Enter the Game of Death, aka King of Kung Fu. This is a film that was made in 1978, released in 1981 in Hong Kong, and I think the delay had a lot to do with the fact that Golden Harvest, the film studio that Bruce Lee made his films with, released their version of a licensed Bruce Lee version of Game of Death, which only featured about 12 minutes of footage of Lee's originally filmed footage before he passed away when he was making the film. And this film stars an assortment of kung fu film stars and included a gentleman named Wong King Lung, who would go on to have a renewed career, a former Shaw Brothers star player that he got cast in roles that were imitating Bruce Lee films and Bruce Lee-like characters. When he decided to take on this, it was on the heels of another Bruce exploitation film star, Ho Chung Tao, who was known as Bruce Lee, Bruce L.I. Well, this gentleman, Wong King Lung, was known as Bruce Lee, Bruce L.E. And though I am not one that is fond of these films, nor the men who kind of ripped audiences off with their portrayals, many times, oftentimes, very subpar. But these films made money during that time. 1978 was also a year that saw Jackie Chan's Snake in the Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master, so you can only imagine how the great turn films were taking away from Bruce Lee type fare. And so films like King of Kung Fu, aka Enter the Game of Death, they weren't high on the priority list for film goers. So that is the film that we're going to talk about this evening. And some of you may have seen this movie, some may not. This is not so much a film that I am recommending, because I don't want there to be any misunderstanding of an endorsement of going to see films that have Lee-like characters and circumstances, including the titles of a film, to draw audiences in. Because that was another thing that was done during this time. They would label films with Enter in the title, Game, Death, Dragon, Fist, Bruce, Lee. So many films made during the genre of Bruceploitation that sometimes audiences would just go with the flow, and some people knew it wasn't really Bruce Lee and they didn't care. They just was like ready to see a new kung fu film. I was one who was very much disappointed when they would do this, and wasn't fond of it at all. Just didn't like being ripped off in the cinemas. And sometimes the movie posters would have advertisement that would really drag this point home. Like this original poster art for the film, He's Back, the King of Kung Fu. And here they had Wong King Lung dressed in the Bruce Lee's yellow and black trim tracksuit, the onesie that he was famously photographed in, because at that time the film hadn't been released. So we only remember so many production photos and behind the scene photos of Lee in his famous tracksuit on the set filming fight scenes, and also with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So these producers couldn't wait to take the Lee-like images and produce for audiences their own take on what they thought Bruce Lee was doing. I saw this film many years after it was released. I think it may have been going into the late 80s when I finally laid eyes on this film. And though I had seen Wong King Lung playing Bruce Lee type roles earlier, I thought that this was really a low budgeted take on what was bits and pieces of a script that Bruce left behind for his film Game of Death. One of the things that they did besides take the title and the yellow tracksuit plot lines, because Lee's film was supposed to be centered around he and 4 other martial artists who were hired to take a raid on a temple in Korea, South Korea. The temple turned out to be Pope Jusaw Temple, and the film was supposed to be shot in Korea. It was supposed to have Bruce and these 4 other martial artists have this raid on this temple, which at the top of the temple there was supposed to be some type of treasure that they were to recover. But each level of the 5-story pagoda was supposedly guarded by a specific martial arts stylist, and no weapons like knives or guns or swords were allowed on the island where this temple was. It was supposed to be a part of a martial village where there were nothing but martial artists in this village. Metal detectors were surrounding the island so that you couldn't come in with artillery. So that was the basic plot line for Bruce Lee's Game of Death. And in this film, Enter the Game of Death, the plot is kind of similar, but really fleshed out not so much. But they just took familiar points of knowing what Bruce Lee's original idea, or having some semblance of his idea, and they decided to throw together their own version. My notes on this film talk about it being one of Wong King Lung's best exploitation films, because he was always thought to be a better martial artist than Ho Chung Tao, aka Bruce Lee, but he was a very small man. I had looked for, dimensions on him, like to try to find his true height. I always thought he was around 5'6" or 5'5", very slight guy. But as he found himself in these roles, he was one of the better martial artists, hands down, who could handle choreography in his films. But he was a very slight guy, and he was very thin. So the fact that he was so thin and wore this bushy hairstyle, he would give you, images of Bruce in Bruce's last film of Enter the Dragon, when he wore a thicker, longer hairstyle. But he had lost so much weight, he was very skinny in Enter the Dragon. So this is where Wong King Lung bore his resemblance to Lee, but not so much facially, but more or less in his physical build. And again, he was pretty good with his martial arts prowess, but not as good as Lee. His kicking skills left a lot to be desired, but his hands were pretty good. Taking my time around this project just to talk about who was in this film with Wong King Lung. He walked around in outfits in this film that were reminiscent of what Bruce Lee wore in earlier films, like in Fist of Fury, when he was in the Master Wa Dojo. He wore his white mourning suit. A lot of people don't know, but the Chinese, when they wear mourning outfits, they put on white. Like in America, we wear black to funerals, and when we're in mourning, in Asian culture, they use white. So he walks around in a similar white suit like Bruce Lee wore in Fist of Fury. And this film is really sprinkled with a lot of fight scenes. And there are familiar faces as villains and foes in this film, like James Nam, who plays one of the guys in the pagoda that he has to fight. Also Bolo Young, who we know from Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, very popular martial arts film character and movie star. There was Yo Soo Chin, who was a Korean actress who played the female lead in this film, and Lee Hoi San, who also played one of the pagoda martial artists. And lo and behold, we had some Western faces in this film. There was a gentleman that was in here. He was a martial artist, but he was unbilled in the film. If anyone knows this gentleman's name, it would be great if you could assist me, but I was trying to look him up and I couldn't run across his name. But he was also joined by veteran martial artist Samuel Walls, who was in this film with him. So they had an international cast here, and also an unbilled gentleman who played the boss, who is trying to foil the raid that Wang Ken Lung and his agents, that they're trying to get to this tower to retrieve some documents that will help them out, help the Chinese out against invaders who are trying to make war against their nation. So this film was, again, just another opportunity to show martial arts on display. And like I said before, there are tons of fights in this film, and the fight scenes are pretty good. Some stuff is a little hokey and dated, but if you like martial arts, it was entertaining. And it was just that thing that they would do to just bring more to you as you watch Kung Fu films. I know that watching Wang King Lung and Bruce Lee, aka Wang King Lung, and Bolo fighting, it gave you ideas of when Bolo could have faced Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. A lot of people were looking forward to the possibility of that fight scene, but it never came off. But Wang King Lung fights Bolo, I think, 2, if not 3 times in this film. So it was like they were really pushing that, Bruce against, Bolo. One of the images that I captured, let's see if I can come up with it here. Yeah, here's a shot from the film where you can see Bolo and Wang King Lung fighting. And of course, Wang is wearing his custom yellow and black trim tracksuit onesie. It's funny how many times that outfit has appeared on film, and a lot of people who wore their renditions of it, it was never like the one that Bruce Lee actually wore, because he had the suit actually custom made by a tailor on the Golden Harvest set. Allegedly there were 2 suits, like the black trim with gold, and then there was one that the suit was black with gold trim. I'm not so certain because I never saw any images of Bruce Lee in the past 50 years with him with a black suit on. But in Enter the Dragon, he wore a black onesie cat suit deal, and it was just before he had the fight scene in the underground cavern with Han's bodyguards. But in this film, Wang King Lung's suit is tailor-made for him. the zippers are actually along the sides of the shoulder where where the black trim is, and I think they're on both sides. Bruce Lee's ran down the back. And in the Golden Harvest version of Game of Death, you could tell when the actor is not Bruce Lee because the tracksuit is not the same. It looks a lot alike, but the trim that goes up under the armpit is supposed to go all the way up the sleeves. In the Golden Harvest, the Game of Death, the trim under the armpit stops right under the armpit. It's not on both sides of the sleeves. And the actor who stood in for Bruce Lee in that film wore what looked like gold and black trim pro kids dickhead shoes. You know, we used to call them dickheads, you know, the ones with the big plastic toe. Bruce Lee's were the Mexican 66 like ASIC shoes. They were custom with gold and white strings and black trim on there. So it's kind of tripped out just to know these little details about, you know, that. Let me take a quick moment and see who we got in the chat, man, because I know I've been talking for a little bit and I'm not ignoring anybody. I say thank you to everybody that decided to come in this evening and check me out, talking about a little Bruceploitation tonight. I don't know why I get tongue-tied saying that word, because it's not a word that I've said a lot, but I have to say it because I'm articulating what this genre was. It was a whole entire subgenre in the Kung Fu era of the 70s and early 80s. Bruceploitation. That's when producers found actors who would play Lee-like roles, kind of look like Lee in some instances, try to play a character that Lee played or a character that's related to a character that Lee played. A lot of whatever it was centered around Lee, and that's what they pushed. Some films didn't have nothing to do with Lee, and they would just put it in the title. Bruce is back. Fist like Lee, and all of this stuff they would put out there. It was crazy, man. Never seen anything like that before or since, that they would have actors playing a deceased former actor, and just like, I guess the closest thing would be the Elvises out in Vegas, right? The flying Elvises and the Elvises who do the reviews, and then the Elvises that can marry you at the wedding place. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Really, really insane. We got Mac of the South in the building. What's happening with you, brother? Derek Gaines is back. The Jab Jamboree is out there. What's happening with you? Derek says, I often wonder how Bruce Lee's family felt about that. You know they didn't feel good about that, man. But what could they do? That was over in Hong Kong, and Bruce's family was in America. They couldn't have much say-so. TD Sports Talk is in the building. Jab Jamboree is saying facts. Michael Ray II is out there saying, homie from I'm Gonna Get You Sucker was in this. Oh yeah? Is that Samuel Walls? And then Universal Truth was saying salute sensei. Jab Jamboree says I gotta get one. You wanna get one of them yellow tracksuits like Bruce Leroy from Last Dragon? Now the one that Bruce Leroy had in The Last Dragon was a lot like the one that Bruce Lee wore, believe it or not. It was a lot like the one that Bruce Lee wore. And his was more custom and tailor fit to fit him properly, like Lee's did on the set of Game of Death. Stephen L. the Mac says, I'm here too, Sensei. What's good with you, Stephen L? Good to see you. Yeah, Michael Ray II says, that scene with the Snake Man was wild, wasn't it? Hey, listen. Hey, Michael Ray. Listen, man, I got an image of that. I'm glad you mentioned it, because I did put this in as one of my images from the film. This guy. Listen, that dude was crazy, man. And then he bit the head of the snake off, right, and spit it. And he was spraying the blood at Wang King Long, spraying it at him. And dude was like looking like, what the hell? This dude is crazy. Man, that was a crazy moment in that film. You're absolutely right. And he had snakes all in the thing. He was throwing them at old boy. Man. But that's what these films, they were a lot of fun, you know. It's just crazy action and everything, man. Champion Heart is in the building. What's good with you? He says salute to Sensei Stormy and family in the chat. Yeah, what's good with you? Yeah, Michael Ray, that this image I got on the screen here, that's when he got it wrapped around his neck. He tried to strangle him with his snake. What's some crazy stuff, man? Only in a kung fu film, though, right? Yeah, man. Yeah, man. What a film, though. But I got my notes here. It's talking about the plot of this film. Goes as such. It says, there's a mysterious Chinese document that is hidden in the Tower of Death, and evil Japanese occupiers want to get their hands on it. Meanwhile, a Chinese fighter named Mr. Ang, played by Wang King Long, aka Bruce Lee, is training in the forest, only to be challenged by several Japanese fighters, as well as one of the main Japanese henchmen, Bolo. He defeats the other fighters, but flees from Bolo when he pulls out a sword. Mr. Ang and Bolo meet again in a wrestling ring, where Mr. Ang once again defeats Bolo. Mr. Ang's victory impresses the Japanese, who want to hire him to go to the Tower of Death. However, Mr. Ang is a Chinese nationalist and refuses. This leads to Mr. Ang being challenged by another group of Japanese fighters in another forest, with Mr. Ang once again reigning victorious. Shortly afterwards, Mr. Ang discovers that a woman he thought was working for the Japanese is actually an undercover Chinese agent. They plan to retrieve the document from the Tower of Death. It's funny I'm reading this synopsis because even after all these years of me watching this film, I still couldn't grasp what the damn plot was. I knew he was supposed to be going to the tower and trying to get these documents, but it seemed like all of the other scenes that were not fight scenes were only linking scenes to lead up to fights, because there's a ton of fight scenes in this movie. There's a lot of kung fu fighting in this movie. The real Game of Death that Golden Harvest put out in 1978 didn't have nearly the many fights in it as this film has. And every time you get a chance to see Wang King Long making his Bruce Lee face expressions, or practically living in his yellow and black trim onesie suit, it's like, man, did they think we would forget that Bruce Lee wore a yellow and black suit? I don't know, man. It was just kind of goofy. A little goofy. Anyway, it says they arrive at the Tower of Death, and Mr. Ang enters the tower to encounter each of the following tower guardians: a Shaolin monk armed with small metal balls and butterfly swords on the first floor, a snake-style kung fu shifu who uses both live snakes and snake venom as weapons. He's the second floor guardian. A sensei of both nunchaku and karate who is the second oldest one, the third floor guardian, and a possessed Sifu of both Bojutsu and Tiger style Kung Fu who attacks when a red lamp is turned on, and a Sifu of the Shaolin arts who is the most elderly, the fourth floor guardians. On the fifth floor, there's a brute who fights using a bear style of Kung Fu. And Mr. Ong discovers that the document is not in the tower. So they send him up there to fight all those fights, and there's no documents. But the movie goes on, and there's, like I said, there's so many damn fight scenes in this movie, man. So many. The movie was made, it was shot in Korea and distributed in 1980 in the US and 1981 in Hong Kong, but it was made in 1978. Michael Ray says it had great action. He says, I think the video game Kung Fu is partially based on this movie. The way you have to beat bosses on each floor. Yeah, it was kind of crazy, man. A lot of the plot elements that were for Bruce Lee's film Game of Death were taken and put into video games and movies and stuff like that. It's crazy. Even Uma Thurman in the Kill Bill films was wearing the Bruce Lee like tracksuit colors with her leather jacket and pants and shoes, and she fought the crazy 88 guards right in that film, and they were fighting inside a pagoda like the one that Bruce Lee fought in Game of Death. So there was a lot of stuff going on, you know, to pay attention to. But this film, it had so many fight scenes. I mean, I can't even tell you how many. It seemed like a fight was happening every 5 minutes. Yeah. But yeah, I enjoy watching when martial art films have good action. And this one had good to poor action. I won't lie and say it had a lot of great, because it didn't. It had good to poor, and it went from being good to down to poor in some instances. This above image here that I got is like Bolo fighting Wong King Lung in the forest, and they got Wong King Lung looking like Bruce Lee with his shirt off and his little black pants on, and Bolo's got a sword in his hand, you know. But yeah, this is one of those films that, like I said, heavy on Bruceploitation. Ack is laughing. What you laughing at, Ack? What did I say something funny? What you laughing at, man? Yeah. Shoot, man. I'm going to show you guys the original theatrical poster. This is the American poster that they have put out. But there's another poster that was the original theatrical poster. This was the original theatrical poster for the film. Yeah. And then there's some still shots I took to show you guys, like when Wong King Lung, when he was fighting these two brothers in the movie. I thought that was kind of tripped out. They put him in there where he's with Sam Walls and the other brother. Look how much bigger they are than him, man. You know they'll smash him in real life, right? But I'm going to tell you guys something. Though Wong King Lung was a little guy, Bruce Lee wasn't much bigger than him. But it was the way they shot him on film that made him look a lot bigger, because Bruce Lee was only 5'7", you know? And he was a lot more muscular for a thin guy. He had muscles that would pop out when he flexed. But he wasn't much bigger than Wong King Lung. Wong King Lung is a very small, slight man, but you know, he in there. But you see there, they put these brothers in there, man. So they weren't discriminating. And Wong King Lung, he started out working for the Shaw Brothers in the early 70s. And he's 74 years old right now. He was born in 1950. So he was 10 years younger than Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee died at 32. So that means he was 22 when Bruce Lee died. Salute to the general out there. What's good with you, 78? What's happening, man? Yeah, this one, Enter the Game of Death, also known as King of Kung Fu, from 1978, but it wasn't released in America till 1980 and released in Hong Kong in 1981. So it's a Bruceploitation film that's basically taking the plot elements of Bruce Lee's Game of Death and putting a Bruce Lee imitator, Wong King Lung, aka Bruce Lee, putting him in this role where he runs around and he goes into this temple to retrieve some documents and whatnot, and it's basically trying to, you know, do another take on what Bruce Lee's original idea was for his own film, Game of Death. Yeah. Champion Hart says 5'7", 145. That's what Bruce was when he was in America. When he went over to Hong Kong, he immediately started losing weight. And when he died, he was like less than 120 pounds. He had lost a lot of muscle mass. He had lost a lot of, I don't know, whatever was going on with him, man. I know what was going on, but I'm not at liberty to say online because his daughter Shannon, she's out there and she will really go after you if you say, you know, certain things that you can't necessarily prove. But after 50 years, I mean, come on. Yeah. But yeah, this one is it's not a great movie, you guys, but it's got tons of action in it. There's so many fight scenes in this film, you will not get tired of watching Kung Fu. Tons of it. Michael Ray says, it was definitely more brothers in a Kung Fu flick than I'm used to. And they weren't bad until they run across the Bruce Lee-like character, right? And they have to make him look like he was better than them. But them brothers, man, you could tell they knew their stuff. When they break out in their forms and they was kicking and stuff, they looked like they had power and speed, right? Yeah. Yeah. But Wan King Lun, man, he made a few of those Bruceploitation films. He made quite a few of them. Yeah, he wasn't that popular either. Bruce Lee was more popular than he was. But he was a better martial artist than Bruce Lee, though. Bruce Lee's Kung Fu was kind of like really shabby. And sometimes Wan King Lun, depending on where, if he had on some shades or something, he might look like Bruce Lee a little bit from a side or something. But it's like, you know, this dude was something else, man. 78 is asking, he says, what do you think about the Fist of Fear, Touch of Death documentary? Man, that's some bull crap right there, 78. Fist of Fear, Touch of Death. Is one of the worst documentaries that I ever seen, man. But they were capitalizing on the era, the Kung Fu films, the Bruceploitation era. The guys that they put in there, certain martial artists were real guys, but I don't like that documentary. I don't like it. No. I would never recommend it. It was a piece of crap. But certain guys that were in there, like William Louis, a real martial artist from that era, who I actually played in some Kung Fu films. What's his name? Alan Banks. It was another guy. It was a Caucasian guy. Banks. He was in there. Couple of good, you know, martial artists from the early 70s, you know, because back then karate was strong in the U.S. Not so much Kung Fu. Kung Fu craze kicked in after Bruce Lee died, because even though in the 60s he was trying to teach Kung Fu on the West Coast in Seattle, and later in what was it? He was in Bel Air, you know. But hey, what can you say? Champion Heart says the Bruce Lee Foundation had that Reels episode removed. You're right, Stormy. Yeah, man. Yeah, that, you know, I told you, man. Shannon don't be playing, and I can't blame her. You know, she wants to keep a tight legacy around her dad and his name, but you know, he was a human being like us all, and he had flaws, and you know, it's just unfortunate that when he passed away, a lot of stuff was going on in his personal life, man. A lot, you know. But that doesn't take away from his accomplishments, you know. But Shannon, you know, when you look at Shannon, looks a lot like her dad, man. She got those wild eyes and everything. I think she even has his laugh too, you know. It's really funny how that works out, because I kind of laugh like my dad, but it's like, that's weird. But I respect Shannon, because she was only 3 or 4 years old when her dad passed away, so her memories of him have to be real kind of like, you know, touch and go. So, you know, it is what it is. Shogun says, speaking of documentaries, Sensei, did you see that they're doing a Bolo documentary about his life? No, I did not see that, but that would be interesting. I would like to know more about Bolo, who supposedly swam across the rivers or oceans or something to escape poverty or something, and wound up in Hong Kong. Yeah, Bolo does have an interesting legacy that he's left behind, and he's got a son that has come up into bodybuilding that looks like him a lot and is more defined in his musculature than his dad. You know, Bolo is something else, man. Champion Heart says, yeah, that documentary is trash. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is trash. Yeah. But yeah, Enter the Game of Death. They put two exploitation titles in one there. Enter from Enter the Dragon and Game of Death from Bruce Lee's film. Yeah. Them folks are a trip, boy. They come up with all kinds of ways. And I told you, the titles of these movies, man. Yeah. Michael Ray says one of them gave Bolo hell in that ring. That was Wong King Long, aka Bruce Lee. When he fought Bolo in the ring, he choked Bolo out in that fight they had in the ring. He choked him out. Let's see what we got here. Got a donation here. Salute to the brother Michael Ray II with the Cash App donation, man. Appreciate you, Michael Ray. He comes in, he says, let's see. Hold on. He says, for the great content. Thank you so much there, Michael Ray, man. Thank you so much, brother. Oh yeah, okay, Michael Ray. I remember that guy that was doing those kicks. Yeah, the brother. You know what? Do you remember? Wait a minute, Mike. Hey, Michael Ray. Since you seen the film, do you remember when that brother was in there giving him the trouble, Bolo, right? And then he got knocked to the canvas. And then he was about to do something, and Bolo just did a kick to his face and knocked him out. It was like, psh, and dude was like, the brothers can't catch no damn breaks, man. Why he kicked the brother in the face like that, and the brother was knocked out? That had me cracking up laughing, man. It was a funny moment too. It's unintentionally funny, right? It's unintentionally funny. Like he was doing those kicks and stuff, and Bolo was like moving around. The dude hit the floor, and then Bolo just went like, say if you trying to kick a soccer ball, he's like, he kicked dude in the face, and he was knocked out. I was cracking up laughing at that, man. It was like, you know how they like to say a fighter don't have no chin? Well, it's like he didn't have no chin. It's like he got kicked in the face and he was unconscious. Man, I tell you what. Why they do brothers like that though? I don't know, man. It's like, you know. And you can see the brothers had all them muscles and stuff. They looked every bit as built as Bolo did, right? They was like, you know. I mean, you can look at them in that image that I put up there. Where's that image at I put up there? The brothers with Wong King Long. Look at these dudes. These dudes is buff, man. Both of them. And it's the brother. Which one of them? It's the brother that's on the right there that got kicked in the face, I think. Michael Ray said he had no resistance. Yeah, man. Where's my man Shogun? Shogun, did you see this movie, man? Where's Shogun at? Shogun, did you see this movie, man? And that's another thing. Like every time he was in the damn forest, them dudes was they was in the forest waiting on him or something. It's like, first of all, why is all the karate dudes in the forest? What the hell is that? And then why is dude always running around with this yellow tracksuit on, like he ain't got no other wardrobe and shit? It's like, you know. Shogun said, "No, I ain't see it." Yeah, you need to check it out. Some good fights in there. Jimmy Bernard says, "Salute Sensei, what's good, chat? Bolo still looks the same to this day." Yeah, he looks good. He looks good. Bolo looks good, man. He's got to be 70-something years old himself, or 80. Akondo, what's happening with you, bro? Yeah, Kondo, he says, "Is this the knockoff Bruce Lee?" Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. The knockoff. That's a good name. We call him Wang King Lung is his real name, but they called him Bruce Lee with one E, you know. I didn't like calling him that, or the other guy, Ho Chung Tao, Bruce Lee. I don't like calling them those exploitation names, man. Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube. It's out there. But it's also known, it's called Into the Game of Death, but it's also known as King of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. Yep, King of Kung Fu. But I'm going to tell you guys something. There's a Bruce Lee set that has come out. Not Bruce Lee. Here I go. The Clones of Bruce Lee. It's a box set of movies made from the exploitation era. And this movie is in that box set. It's been remastered on Blu-ray. It looks pretty good on Blu-ray, man. All the colors are popping and jumping and everything. It looks pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, man, it is what it is, you know. It is what it is. Yeah, this one I can't recommended as being really good. It's just one of the more prominent exploitation films from the era, with a play on what Bruce Lee was trying to do with his film. But that's nothing more I could really say on that. Yeah. I think that we can get ready to head on out, but not before hearing from my brother, the Focus Ball, right? Peace to you guys that came out late, man. I can go back and catch the replay or rewind it back to the beginning. We're talking about this film from 1978, Enter the Game of Death, also known as the King of Kung Fu. Yeah. Yeah, man. Let's see here.
Get ready to take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, head movement, hand-eye coordination, reflex, and overall fight IQ. It's lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere. When you don't have a coach to do mitt work, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a heavy bag to hit, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a sparring partner, get yourself a Focus Ball. And when you just want to have fun punching and kicking, get a Focus Ball. When you train with the Focus Ball, you train your eyes and your brain to read punches so that you can hit and not get hit, making this very simple device a must-have for all combat sports athletes and enthusiasts alike. So if you want to take your striking game to the next level, don't wait. Get the Focus Ball now.